Hey, Steve Smith. I'm trying out a new way. Hey, Steve Smith.
That was very Don Pardo. Hello, Bret Starr. How are you doing?
I'm great. I'm not really going to do that every time from now on. Hey.
That's good. I got it.
I annoyed myself.
Stop
now. How is your new year?
It is happy, joyous, and cold.
Wow, did you get hit with that? You're in St. Louis, so you must have got walloped by some snow.
We have gotten no snow so far, so it's not like the people in our nation's capital, but been a little on the chilly side. So just kind of getting used to that again, real winter.
Well, let's get straight to it. Enough of the small talk. Let's get straight to it. It's 2022. We haven't talked on air since sometime in December of 2021, which was a whole year ago. Mm-hmm. $31 million in funding in 2021.
Or billion.
I'm sorry. What did I say?
You said million.
Oh, dang it.
31
billion.
Million, billion. Let's just have fun.
I have to stop reading from these bullet points because it's like I accidentally wrote an M instead of a B. And I didn't even hear myself saying it. But yeah, 31 million would be like, that would take us back 15 or 20 years.
Yeah, a little bit.
31 billion invested in work tech companies in 2021. Is that your final count for 2021?
No, we're still getting a few late breaking end of year investments in, 100 million here, 100 million there. It begins to turn into real money before too long. So we'll have some final numbers by next week, but it was easily a lot more money than 2020. It was as much. Actually, it was something like 20% more investment in Q4 than all of 2020 put together.
Goodness.
It was a 220% or more increase year over year. So that's what we call a lot of money where I come from.
That is a lot of money. So what do you think is going to happen? And I think we should come back and hold ourselves accountable and roll the tape.
Which we will not do.
Which we will never do. No. We'll just only pick that one thing that we got right. And for the next 10 years, we'll say, see, we got that right. We got employee experience right. Yeah. See? What's going to happen in 2022?
I'm thinking we're going to see a whole bunch of consolidation because there are companies that are sitting on piles of cash. And they're going to go out and, I think, buy competitors. They're going to buy innovation. I think that we have a lot of red ocean categories out there that are just ripe for rolling up. And so, yeah, it's going to be. I think we're going to see a lot of that. Are we going to see another 31 billion or more in investment? I don't know. Can the good times continue to roll?
No. Well, just to be clear. Do you count that in your investment numbers? So say, I don't know, SAP comes out, and much like they did in 2001, buys their way into 2011 buys their way into the wave of cloud innovation through multiple acquisitions. Does SAP's purchase of SuccessFactors in 2011 figure into the numbers that you calculate? So consolidation would therefore see a lot of money go into the market to acquire and combine multiple companies, probably under larger brands, but would not add to the total of kind of innovation funding, whether it's private equity or venture capital coming in to the marketplace.
Yeah,
I just like to ask because I think so many people use the word consolidation so frequently, and I think it's kind of not. This is going to sound crazy when I say it, but I don't think it's a broadly understood concept of like what consolidation means. So what does consolidation mean in your definition?
I think of consolidation as, big players either playing catch up by buying innovative upstarts or filling in holes in their platform or capabilities, or just buying up competitors. Yeah. So I think that, or two competitors that are maybe stronger and better together than they are separately. I think that there's a lot of different sort of flavors of consolidation, and I sort of feel like 2022 is going to be a lot like 2012 in that regard, that we're going to see a lot of kind of a reset of companies in categories and positioning for the decade ahead.
Yeah. Well, I think there's a couple of ways to visualize consolidation that are relevant to this conversation. The first is just kind of, the typical pie chart. And, what happens in a period of consolidation is that the pie actually gets bigger, right, because the market's still growing. Mm-hmm. But the number of slices in the pie goes way down. And so when you're in kind of like what we've been in, where there's the creation of a lot of innovative markets, I don't want to use the word emerging markets because I think they're beyond emerging, but, the mass creation of innovative markets because it got $15 billion of investment, and companies went from 0 to 300, 500 employees, and there was multiple of those in the categories. If you look at a pie chart for continuous performance management or a pie chart for whatever, you'll see a growing pie, but the number of vendors is getting smaller. And what you're saying is in 2022, it's going to get, the number of vendors will get even smaller even as the pie continues to grow. So that's one way to look at it. But, if you take that pie chart and kind of create a vertical 2-dimensional, map of market movement, it also shows, these component solutions that have rolled up to categories, and then these category solutions that are rolling up to platforms. And then the final phase in that movement is when the apex organizations come in and start buying a lot of the platform plays, or companies who are in motion towards platform, or buying, from the category level to fill out the rest of their platform. And so it does feel to me much like 2012 as well, where there seems to be a tipping point at play, where the organizing principles are now pretty broadly accepted. Employee experience is a thing. We've got to do something about the work experience, for the future, et cetera. Companies like Workday have firmly established the, kind of work system as the center of the universe, as opposed to the ERP system or, the manufacturing system or whatever. So it's a sea change, et cetera. So it feels a lot like this is going to be the start of a very special few years. Mm-hmm. What advice do you have for organizations out there who are not the Oracles, who are not the SAPs, who are not the, the IBMs or the Microsofts or the, the Metas or all the companies that we talked about all year last year, who are going to be the, the apex companies coming in and consolidating a lot of the stuff, even, UKGs and folks like that. If you are, and this kind of reminds me of Cornerstone On Demand and their response to, what was happening with delay and success factors, kind of back in the day. Mm-hmm. What do you do here? Do you position to be acquired? Do you, position to, kind of stand your ground in a category or platform? What advice do you have for folks?
Well, I think that it helps to, have a vision that you can be able to stay true to. I think that if you go back to, the Cornerstone example, they weren't success factors, they weren't Taleo. And at the time, it seemed like maybe they were on the outside looking in, but, they had a vision of, building essentially the work tech stack around learning, training, and development that they were sort of skating to where the puck was going to be. And so, 10 years on, they were able to roll up a lot of what had been the talent category, acquiring Saba, Halogen, companies like that. And, I think that they're in a pretty good position for the road ahead just by sticking to what their vision of themselves was. So I think that having that strong perspective and just kind of like staying the course is one way to kind of look at it. We just fielded our survey of WorkTech founders, sales and marketing professionals on what their expectations for 2022 would be. And they're very bullish. I mean, 9 out of 10 expect to grow no matter what the macroeconomic conditions are. So there's a lot of an overwhelming bullish attitude
among founders.
Well, it's really across the board. It's founders, okay. It's sales and marketing leaders, just folks working in workplace technology are incredibly bullish about what 2022 holds. Yep. But what our research also showed us is when you started looking at the highest performing companies versus sort of the slow, low, or no growth companies, it was very clear that the fastest growing companies, the companies that are experiencing most success, are overwhelmingly spending more in sales and marketing than everybody else. And so it's just like, investing in brand is still, you can't afford not to do it. A lot of times we hear people say, well, I can't afford to invest in brand. It's just like you can't afford not to. And I think the other big sea change that companies need to be aware of in work tech is the leaders, the fastest growing companies are overwhelmingly investing in assets and initiatives that will allow them to perform better with outbound sales. So they're investing more in sales enablement. They're investing more in content across the board. They're spending less on inbound activities, the MarTech stack, things of that nature. So, we've been saying it and seeing it for years. It's just the performance of inbound marketing has been, slowly decreasing, and that in order to hit the kind of rapid growth goals, the big numbers that a lot of these brands they're pulling in the investment capital have to hit to keep investors happy, you've got to invest in outbound and you've got to get good at it.
Yeah. I mean, so many things there to, kind of double click on. And a lot of them are soapbox issues for me. So I'm going to try. I know, crazy, right? So I'm going to try not to veer into that territory too much. But, I kind of want to go back to, the trick question that I had at the beginning, which is, should people be positioning for an acquisition or, trying to stand alone in the category or et cetera? And your answer was perfect, which is people should continue to prosecute whatever their vision is. And, when I look back on the period of Taleo, SuccessFactors, and Cornerstone On Demand as an example of that, kind of market cycle, it does feel now in retrospect that SuccessFactors was running a financial shareholder plan the entire time, and that Cornerstone On Demand was actually driven by a strong belief in how things should be and how they could do them. And their business strategy was actually driven by their vision rather than trying to, kind of cash in a hot market during, what in retrospect may look like, kind of the peak oil moment for integrated talent management or whatever. And so I'm, if I were to provide any advice, it'd be what you captured, which is just keep doing what you're doing. And I've gone back and forth on this point in my life. It's like people will ask the question, how do you position for an acquisition? And the answer is always, with one group of folks, well, you just run a good company and you see what happens. And then there's another group of people that's like, that's total bullshit. If you want to sell your business, these are the metrics that you have to care about, and you have to guide all of your business strategy around these metrics. And that's what's going to lead to the most significant valuation and most kind of significant acquisition outcome for you. And I've been on both sides of that. When I was really young, I was like, it's all about just working, the vision and doing the right thing. And then when I was in my 30s, I was cynical, and I was like, oh, that's a bunch of bullshit. It's like companies who want to sell, they have to do A, B, C, D, and E, And now that I'm getting, I'm slouching towards Bethlehem, I'm leaning towards 50, I can't remember what the country singer is, but he used to sing, I'm on the backside of 30. Mm-hmm. I'm on the backside of 40. Anyway, I won't start singing, but now I'm much more in the camp of no, it's like have a vision, stick to it, and then you'll be presented with opportunities, and you can choose whether to take advantage of those opportunities or not. But we don't know what the markets are going to do. There's a lot of things that are out of our control, so just kind of stick to your knitting and keep doing the things that you think need to be done and that you are uniquely qualified to do. And we'll see what happens. I don't know. Because it's going to be a crazy fucking year.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt.
I mean, even us. I mean, I'm getting emails and calls literally every day from someone, wanting to find out if they can, buy us or sell us or represent us. Mm-hmm. And it's always, a combination of just kind of cold outreach. And then every now and then there's like somebody who really wants to have a conversation about it and all that stuff. But the volume and intensity of that just, speaks of like, I feel like I'm kind of like in a market somewhere, like a bazaar, like a physical market, and like everyone's afraid the apples are, like running out. So they're going everywhere and just like trying to find apples. They don't even care what kind of apples they are.
Right.
So we'll see. Anyway, the second soapbox issue is this outbound marketing stuff, because, what could be taken from a lot of our comments and a lot of our conversations over time is that we think, or I think, that inbound marketing is stupid and dead and HubSpot screwed everybody. No, it's just cyclical.
Right.
And we're at a moment in market development where, categories are shifting quickly, where there's a huge amount of investment saturating paid, owned, and earned channels. And that means that the ability to compete on, catching people in your inbound net with keywords and stuff like that, not only is much more difficult, but also is attracting a commodity buyer as opposed to the visionary buyer that we now have entering the market who's, trying to kind of redo their tech stack. So I'm not surprised by that. One thing that did surprise me that you brought up about the survey is I thought the last time we talked about this, there was a pretty significant distinction between what founders, that founders were not bullish, but that, everybody else on their team was. So it sounds like a lot more founder responses kind of came in.
No, it's founders were more pessimistic about how they were going to end 2021.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
But I mean, universally across the board, everyone was incredibly bullish about 2022.
Gotcha.
So there was definitely a strain of that. But in terms of like just looking at the rest of the responses in the broader market, it's just like the only thing I can attribute it to is, when you get to the end of the quarter and it's just like, maybe the numbers aren't quite exactly where you want them to be, and so you're just like, it's we're not going to hit this outrageous goal that I had. It's only going to be, moderately great rather than, kind of over the moon. So sort of like the opposite when you talk to like sales leaders, just like everything's going to be great.
Yeah.
We're blowing this quarter out of the water.
Yeah. Well, and to me, there's a lot of that creative tension there around, people's desire to return to normal and pinning all of their optimism on like, achieving some sort of stability in terms of how we think things ought to be based on the way they used to be.
Right.
And so, to me, it's almost like a cruel joke. I think a lot of people were, hoping to pull out their year towards the end of 2021 because, for a lot of organizations in work tech, that's a harvest season. There's a lot of, solution switching, buying, RFPs are coming to conclusion in the fourth quarter, et cetera. But I also think that a lot of people felt that we were going to be in a very different, kind of, COVID situation.
Yeah.
And it's almost like everyone just kind of keeps planning that it's betting on the come. Everyone's betting on the come, and the come's not coming. That sounds awful the way I just said it, but
it really does.
It really does. And when Omicron, comes, and basically, I mean, how tired are we of another, kind of forest fire? Of fucking COVID.
Right.
And I'm sure that wrapped up in a lot of people's optimism around 2022 is the idea that things are going to be different than they were in 2021 and different than the way they were in 2020. And all I would say is, why do you keep fucking waiting? I mean, how many times do you have to experience a rug pull before you start walking carefully on the rug,
Right.
And just getting on with it. It's like, let's just get on with it. Because whatever, like we're going to do as an organization, as as organizations, as people, as employees, as customers, as, like whatever we're going to do in the context of whatever situation that we're in is probably going to drive beneficial change regardless of what the future holds.
Right.
And I just think so many people are just waiting, and we're not waiting.
No, but I think there's also, to add to this, there's it's not just wanting for everything to kind of go back to the way it was. Hey, we'll be in the office and we're going to jump on airplanes and, trade shows will still be relevant and all that nonsense. It's just like, it's this awareness that the way that buyers shop for and buy technology really has changed. Yeah. And there's still a lot of companies out there that are just trying to like turn and burn. It's just like, let's get leads in the door. Oh, okay. How many of these can we convert into demos immediately? And it really is this old school, like early 2000s transactional, approach to sales and marketing. And it's just like that shit just doesn't fly anymore.
No. And, to me, it's not to get too philosophical, but it's a locus of control issue.
Yeah.
Right. Because it's like people keep doing the same thing and not succeeding. And then they say, oh, because COVID. Oh, because COVID. It's like, well, guess what? You and I both look at spreadsheets every day until, our eyes start to wander. And for every company that is one of those low, slow, or no growth companies, for, every company that contracted, there's a company that grew 150%, 200%. I'm not talking small numbers either. I'm talking like they went from 75 million to, 150 million in revenue in the same period that other people are lamenting their bad luck because COVID,
Right.
And so I think to your point, things have changed. You have to change with things. And I think a majority of, especially, kind of conservative organizations in terms of business strategy and planning, a lot of private equity-backed organizations, a lot of bootstrapped organizations, et cetera, are basically sewing the boot to kick their own ass.
Right.
Because they're hewing to models that they think are going to come back into favor once, kind of the environment around COVID stabilizes. And these two things need to be decoupled because they're not really related. The market is maturing, a new organizing principles at play. People are buying in different ways. Et cetera. And there's a cohort of companies who are figuring it out. And there's ones who are trying to preserve the field dynamic as it was 2 years ago. And, I don't know how many times we have to say it. It's like when the field becomes disrupted, trying to preserve the way things used to be is not a great business strategy.
Right. And it goes back to a topic that, you've been, beating the drum on for a long time. What is a qualified buyer? Is that an intrinsic quality or is it an extrinsic quality? And there's still this old school, okay, I'm going to, go through, does this person have, BANT? Are they BANT qualified? They're looking for all of these sort of like checkbox things, magic qualified buyer. Yeah. And as you and I both know, it's just like you can get into a conversation with someone who has no intent of buying something from you. And if you're able to really engage with them about what they need, you can create a qualified buyer through an effective sales conversation. But it may not happen in a 30-minute phone call. It may take a little bit of time. And it's just like we're seeing that sort of that old school spreadsheet, BANT-focused approach to, is this person qualified or not qualified? Move on.
Oh, I know. It's crazy. I mean, if I were to walk out of our office in San Francisco and walk down the street and go to some kind of silly networking event or whatever and run into a chief marketing officer and that person, ask me what I did and I say, oh, well, I work with a, kind of an experience agency and we do a lot of marketing stuff, et cetera. And he says, wow, that's amazing. I just got my $2 million budget approved for working with an external agency earlier this morning. I know that we're not going to get that because he's got budget, she's got authority, they've got time frame, they've got need, right? They've got all of the BANT stuff, but by the time that stuff materializes, they already have a favorite vendor. Mm-hmm. And so that person is going to turn around and walk away from me and go try to find a productive conversation because they've already got people in their back pocket.
Right.
that they've been considering for a long time, and now that their budget's approved, they're just going to keep executing that. And no matter how hard I try to, talk about why we're amazing, brilliant, better, whatever, it comes down to this human notion of you're not going to go back on commitments that you've made to people, really, and people that you have relationships with, and you've been telling them for a year that you're going to work with them as soon as your budget's approved, and then your budget's approved, and they're not going to change because they, met somebody in person at a networking event, Kismet, there it is. If they're not going to change their mind then with all of this fucking charisma, they're certainly not going to do it because they clicked on a Google ad and had a phone call with an inside sales rep. That's all I'm saying.
True. But I mean, there's also the, how many conversations have you had where you've blown up an RFP where obviously, riding in at the 11th hour, you don't really have a snowball's chance in hell of winning that deal, but you end up winning that deal.
Well, a few, but I would also say that in most of those situations, when I look back on them, there really was no early favorite vendor. Like they basically put out an RFP, and they didn't have anyone in mind when they put out the RFP. And maybe, they had a couple of conversations with people who seemed really interesting, but they were still kind of open to, kind of exploring, what they were trying to achieve. Mm-hmm. I would say that the ability to blow up an RFP is much more likely when it's a true RFP and people are coming in cold. And to be honest, it was, in our own context, it's typically less experienced teams where we can do that. If you are the, name, chief marketing officer that you respect here, who's been in the work tech industry for 20 or 30 years and your shit and, you've got an $80 million budget or whatever, you already know everybody that you're going to hire for everything and everybody that they're going to hire. Mm-hmm. And the RFP is often just, because it has to be done within the procurement system that way.
Right.
If you're a startup, just got $8 million, 15 million, something like that. Don't really know anything about the marketing world, but everyone's telling you need an agency. Then I think that situation is a little bit different. It's the same with people who are selling work tech software. There's a lot of companies out there who doubled, tripled, quadrupled over the last couple of years, and they're hiring HR teams and executive teams and stuff like that who now need a bunch of stuff that they never needed before. So I think they're putting out real RFPs. My point is that it's very rare that you can actually come in and blow up that process, especially when there's an early favorite vendor, and we're at a point in the market where the early favorite vendors are much more common than not. Sorry about that. That was a long fucking rant.
That was a thorough answer, Brett. Thank you.
Woo.
Thank you for that.
To a question that was not posed. The best kind. Well, we have to talk about Metaverse. So did you get the package?
I got the package.
Okay, tell me about the package.
There was a water bottle in it.
Yeah.
And an Oculus Quest 2 headset that evidently I thought it was special. I thought that, wow, Brett really likes me. He sent me this Oculus Quest. Then I found out you sent one to everyone in the company. So a little less special, but I guess kind of a cool move.
Well, this is a reveal, because we have been talking about the metaverse for months, mm-hmm. and I have been working on this project in secret with a small team of people as we have experimented with everything from just kind of like social moments mm-hmm. to kind of business stuff in the metaverse. And, I think we've been having some very spirited conversations about the metaverse. And then suddenly we're in the metaverse. This package goes out. Everybody at the Starr Conspiracy now has a headset. And we have a very detailed plan for how we're going to start interacting in the metaverse. I will say this. The primary reason we did it, the primary goal, was to overcome the most significant issue presented by the COVID era, mm-hmm. which is people love working from home. Mm-hmm. People, are able to, you go back to that survey that we did, right? Twice. People feel like they spend more time with family, that they have more time to focus on their health. There are all these wonderful benefits, right? People who have like social anxiety disorder, like I do, I love working from home because, it makes me anxious to be around, other people in like a conference room or whatever. So there's so many wonderful benefits, but over and over and over again, people inside our organization and people around the world said the two biggest issues with what's going on right now are feelings of isolation and loneliness. And so the number one thing that we wanted to achieve with, the virtual reality metaverse experience was to actually create a feeling of togetherness in a way that can't be achieved through Zoom and stuff like that. And then we're going to start trying to integrate some, kind of businessy moments in there to see if those work. But I've got to ask, I think you said, I'm probably making this up. It's a better story if you didn't say it. I think you said something like a reverse Charlton Heston, like I will put one of those on when you pry it out of, like someone else's cold dead. I don't know, like what the, how you would say a reverse Charlton Heston.
All right, so wait here. I'm actually going to get the box.
What?
Wait.
Because you haven't opened it?
No.
You son of a bitch. You can't just open it.
All right. Thank you for your understanding. So here it is. It's the Oculus Quest 2 from Facebook.
Yeah.
And then where's the? Oh yeah, right here.
What does that say?
Right here. It says. Here, I'll try to hold it up. Facebook account required.
I don't think that's true anymore, by the way.
And so, yeah, no, I have not opened that. Because you know what? I've never had a Facebook account. Ever.
Well,
and it seems like starting a Facebook account in 2022
is like MySpace.
It's a bad idea. Hey, I just signed up for Napster.
Yeah. LimeWire. Well, to be clear, I don't think that you need, because, here are some other mistakes on that box. They're not called Facebook anymore.
True.
So, I think that their product packaging is probably lagging a little bit behind some of their policies. So you might just give it, a try to see if you have to have a Facebook, account.
Fair enough, but I think that. Hold on, please. I've got a question from the gallery here. Yes.
Okay.
You can make an account with no friends and keep it private, so nobody can find you.
Okay, so I'm just told you can make an account with no friends and keep it private. However, doesn't that seem to defeat the purpose of having a work group?
Well, again, the group that you join has nothing to do with Facebook. Like, you can join a work group of people who you're not even friends with on Facebook. So, in short, no. But also, the question is, what's a Facebook account for? You're arguing that it's for, like, communicating with groups of friends. I would argue completely the opposite.
I would too.
It's for spying on people.
It's for aggregating data that is incredibly intrusive. And speaking of, did you see Don't Look Up?
No.
Okay. So there's a character who is probably a little bit Mark Zuckerberg, a little bit Steve Jobs, and getting into there's a punchline about all of this data aggregation and how much they can tell about you, and at the end it means that you get eaten by a dinosaur. So that's what this is all navigating toward, is you're going to have all this data about me, and then I'm going to get eaten by a dinosaur.
Sounds about right.
So,
which is ironic.
Yeah, it is. No, and I know I sound like a tinfoil hat kind of Luddite when I'm sitting here talking to you and kind of like
no,
shaking my fist. But
no, I love it because I think the whole world thinks like you, and I think that look, we as an entire company, I think how many people do we have now?
Something like 1,000.
Yeah, 1,000 people. We have like 70 people.
Yeah.
And I just
or 70.
Around 70.
Yeah, or 1,000.
Everybody has a headset.
Yeah.
Did you see how many people were super excited about the headset?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And we also know that there are people who are not because of like Facebook issues and stuff like that, but they're not like sending out the email chain GIF and everything and being all happy about it. They're sending us private notes saying, I can't believe you're letting this, enemy in the gate, which is great, great feedback.
Yeah.
But you can see that there is a real, like if you just imagine that, okay, so 70 people, probably about 65 are pretty positively predisposed towards a complete surprise. Hey, we're giving everybody goggles. Most people had never used them before. They were completely blown away by the experience that they were having, just like playing video games and stuff like that. And we are going to start experimenting with like having meetings and social gatherings and that sort of thing. How many companies in the world right now do you think took a full step into the metaverse and got their entire business Google goggles?
I think Accenture's doing it.
Yeah, Accenture got like 70,000 or something like that.
Okay.
So not their entire workforce.
No, just 70,000.
It's just one office or something. They're so big.
Yeah.
But I mean,
no, point taken. Yeah, you're right.
Not many.
You're right.
And I think that, and I say that because I think most people are like you, and they don't make the connection between like the potential hole that this may be filling until they experience it. And I am a huge advocate for this. I've been in like 15 of these sessions now, and it's just different. It's like when I'm sitting next to Michael Mercer, when I'm sitting next to Aaron Swan, I feel like I'm actually sitting next to them, and the quality of the interactions that I'm having, whether we're talking about work or just like at a happy hour or whatever, is really, really different and more fulfilling. And now the whole universe of the metaverse is opening up with Horizon World and all that stuff. And like we have a physical space in the metaverse now. We have a place to meet. We can have events there. We can like play laser tag in the streets. I mean, it's cool. It's cool.
Laser tag in the streets?
Laser tag without those smelly mall things that you have to put on.
Yeah, those are pretty smelly. Yeah.
Pretty awful. So pretty much I think it's going to be a laser tag kind of year.
Well, and so I can understand the potential benefits behind VR and those kind of things. I just don't think that Facebook should be the company that is the driving force behind redefining what the workplace experience is in the 21st century.
Nor do I. I just think that Facebook is basically, I don't know if you can say quietly, when they just went out and like when they changed their entire like brand and name and everything, I think they're getting out of one business and getting into another. And at the same time, I think they're having a big like sea change in like leadership and vision and goals and all that stuff. So I don't think that they're actually going to be driving the metaverse. I think they're going to be all about the metaverse, but I think they're going to approach it in a very different way. And I think the whole Facebook thing is going to become like a MySpace kind of sunset situation, because right now all it's doing is fucking serving up algorithms that make people crazy.
Yeah,
one kind of crazy or another.
True.
So anyway,
I've not opened the box yet.
Open the fucking box, dude.
I'll get around to it, maybe.
Well, we'll see. We'll see if it's any good. We may totally abandon it, but I was I've often felt, because I grew up, as I always tell in my founders, myth, I grew up very poor. And so I've always felt like anything that I ever achieved, like from a financial or monetary perspective or experience perspective, was always going to be like, there's going to be a big rug pull. And so I frequently say, well, you know what? Like we took a vacation one time, and I was like, well, if we never do anything else, at least we took an RV trip across America. If the next year is complete devastation, at least we did this, right? And so now I feel like, you know what? If everything goes to hell in a handbasket, at least we got everyone Oculus Quest 2 goggles. we did that, and now we can die.
All right, then.
Do you know what you're going to put on your tombstone?
I don't want a tombstone.
Oh, are you going to do one of those... what's the new version? It's like an aqua cremation or something like that?
No, I want to be cremated to have my ashes shot out of a cannon.
Ooh, yeah, you've said that a lot.
Yeah.
I think you're starting to...
no, I feel strongly about that.
Yeah, I'm starting to believe that you're serious.
Oh, yeah, I'm totally serious.
Well, let's get on record. What kind of cannon?
Oh, not like a new cannon. I'm talking like an old school, like Napoleon cannon,
like a Gettysburg,
like the thing you see like on the cover of like the old school Risk game, game covers. Yeah.
So basically, we need to go to like Boston.
Yeah, something like that, or find I would say find a Civil War reenactor, but kind of given the political climate these days, that's probably not a good idea.
No, no,
but
they're pretty serious these days.
Find like those guys who like do regattas and they have like the little cannons. It's just like, oh, I've got my martini and my straw boater, and I'll fire the cannon so everyone will know to let the yachts go do the yacht things. So, yeah, maybe that cannon.
I promise this to you now. Unless I hear otherwise, I swear to God that I will fire you out of a cannon when you die. If I'm still alive.
That's true friendship. It's also incredibly optimistic. You think you're going to outlive me?
Yeah, I know.
Really?
Could you at least write it down on a piece of paper and seal it? So that if I have the misfortune of living longer than you, I could say, look, he wanted to be shot out of a cannon. Can you find that sealed letter so that, I've got some backup? Because that's the sort of thing.
See, this is the tape that needs to be rolling. It's not, is the market going to go up in 2022? No one gives a fuck about that. Will Brett outlive me? That is interesting.
No
we'll
way.
See you get shot out of a cannon. We don't know.
Well, you're definitely going to get shot out of a cannon.
Okay.
We'll see to that.
Okay.
We're gonna get that in writing.
Okay.
I've got we've got a bunch of young people in the company who will definitely outlive us by a long time, and they're healthy and shit.
Yeah.
So there's all that going.
Great.
Well, okay. Well, cool. So that kind of wheels fell off there a little bit.
That took a weird turn.
It really did. It really did.
Did not see that coming.
I do feel like we have a responsibility in the waning moments to talk about some fairly important things that happen. And honestly, I think this could be a real, told you so moment for you. So, just come on, TriNet buys Zenefits. Go.
Wow. Speaking of things we didn't see coming, haven't we totally seen that coming for years? Didn't we always know it was going to end this way?
Well, I'm leaving the mic open for you, Steve. I want you to gloat. I want you to break this down.
I don't want to gloat. I think that I think TriNet's a great company. I think they made a fantastic acquisition. And I hope that everything ends well for Zenefits as they become a TriNet company. Hope that's great. I hope people made money.
Yeah.
Hope people, not named Parker Conrad made money on that because he's going to make his own pile of money with Rippling. That's gonna be great. So that'll be great. Yeah. I just think that looking at that in conjunction with JustWorks filing for IPO, where it's just like if you had to pick back in, say, 2015, what were the SMB-focused HCM companies that were going to be the winners? Zenefits, having gotten $500 million, probably would have been one of them. Namely, probably would have been another one. So, early leaders, and now, another, Namely's kind of taken a back seat to JustWorks, and JustWorks really been surging. So,
I see what you did there. And I appreciate it, but I want to press you on a little bit.
Okay.
And if you want to cut it in post, we'll cut it. We'll
fix it in post.
I am now going to set a trap through a series of questions. Would you say that it's likely that Zenefits experienced an exit that was satisfying to their investors?
As I mentioned in my Monday briefing email that I sent out to the company, when you send out a press release late on the afternoon of the last business day before Christmas, that's never good news.
Never good news.
So, and that's how we found out about that. There wasn't a big blaring story in TechCrunch. There was a press release that goes out on the last business day before Christmas, late in the afternoon.
Unless it's about Santa. It's,
No, I mean at least NORAD is going to get on TV and say, "Hey, we're tracking Santa.
Yeah,
we have a visual, Roger Wilco, all that stuff."
So you would say then that while there may be because look, I think Zenefits did a lot of right things once they kind of shifted strategy and after they'd consumed one of the largest amounts of funding at the time that had ever been delivered to an organization like that. They changed their entire model, they changed their entire focus. Sure, they had some problems, they did some silly things, etc. But at a scale that was like very large.
Stop laughing! Stop laughing! Stay focused.
So
you're a professional. Goddammit!
I am a professional. Okay, so Zenefits probably did not have the exit that Ashton Kutcher and Jared Leto wanted when they put lots of money.
We don't know that. Terms were not disclosed, so we do not know that. We do not have any special knowledge of that. To be clear.
If I know anything, people when they don't disclose terms, it's not because they're so freaking awesome, Because anyway, and so TriNet buys the organization. You definitely can see the fit around how TriNet would utilize it. Makes a lot of sense. Zenefits was probably purchased at a discount based on the amount of funding that went in versus the product that was eventually created. That's going to add a lot of value to one of the smartest, underrated companies in the marketplace, which is TriNet. This is a brilliant acquisition by TriNet for a lot of reasons, but not the least of which is that it was probably a very low price based on what a company who got that amount of funding would look like had they not had the issues that Zenefits had. But if we can agree to that, I seem to remember an article that you wrote about Zenefits in year when was that?
I think it was 2015.
2015? In 2015.
So 7 years ago now. Really?
7 years ago.
6, probably. But.
And what did you say in that article?
I said Zenefits would be the biggest bust in SaaS history.
Moving on. So, JustWorks files to go public at valuation of
$2 billion.
$2 billion.
$2 billion.
I guess it just works.
Well, it's just the HCM for SMB. There's still, I think, there's a lot of growth runway still ahead. I think that organizations of all sizes, but especially in the sub 100 employee ranks, there's still a long way to go. So there's a lot of upside in that category. But I think it's for me, one of the interesting takeaways. It's not always the early leader that is able to punch it into the end zone. Taleo is an example.
Yeah.
For those of you who dwell in ancient SaaS history.
Yeah.
There you go.
We need to start getting some younger folks on this conversation.
Yeah, no, it's just like, golly, grumpy old men, Are you Walter Matthau and I'm Jack Lemmon, or am I Jack Lemmon and you're Walter Matthau?
Which one lived longer?
I think they died at the exact same age at the same time.
Who was shot out of a cannon?
Walter Matthau.
All right, so speed round. We got to give people what they want. Airtable, no code.
735 million.
735 million. You've been a big proponent of no-code, low-code solutions. You've really brought it into the narrative in WorkTech in 2021. You sent around an article and have referenced, some sentiment from CIOs.
CIOs are dubious for lots of reasons. Security,
and there's,
integration. Do people really want to build their own apps, or do they want to have them delivered on a digital silver platter in the metaverse?
Holy shit, I just realized what this sounds like. It's exactly like the cloud. So I was kind of on the fence a little bit at first, but now you're making it sound exactly like the cloud transformation. Oh, people don't want the cloud. It's not secure. Integration is an issue, et cetera, et cetera. And so now people are saying the same thing about low-code, no-code, which to me must mean that it's going to be the most successful thing that has ever been created.
Well, you do have a good memory for what CIOs said 15 years ago. So
25 years ago.
Good on you.
Kidding me? Yeah. Oh my God.
I know.
I remember when CIOs were created.
Really?
When it was I remember when it was back before about 5 years before the millennial bug, and all of these tech magazines were writing about the emergence of the chief information officer.
Was it like the Tron game where they were like spawned into this digital environment and they had blue helmets?
Nah. It was literally like written in print in magazines called like database management and stuff like that. And like there'd be all these like, 60-year-old columnists who had been writing about tech for the last 15, 20 years. And they would say, somebody needs to manage all of this technology. We believe there will be a chief information officer. And even they didn't believe it. And then here we are. And I want to be one. Okay, so just so we can put it in the headline, predictions and trends for 2022, because, you're not doing your job, apparently, in, an industry like ours, if you don't just say some shit about what you think is going to happen in 2022. So, Steve, what is going to happen in 2020? What are the predictions and the trends for people to keep an eye on in 2022?
Consolidation, metaverse, valuations.
I like it.
And no longer Arby's vodka.
No. Did it make it?
It's kind of flamed out.
No pun intended. Yeah, I would say I agree. Even Josh got on board with Josh Burson got on board with Metaverse. Did you see that?
No, I missed that.
Yeah, he put out his list of, like 7 predictions or whatever, and he is a big believer in the Metaverse. I think he was largely pointing to it. I don't want to characterize his coverage of the Metaverse, but I think it was more about like learning applications and stuff like that. But he's been in some of those environments where people are using it to, basically use augmented reality through, virtual reality headsets to learn to assemble the inside of like truck cabs and stuff like that. So on the job training, et cetera, et cetera. And he also pointed to a lot of the companies that we've been talking about and their strategies for getting in. And so I've seen a lot of people who are pointing to the metaverse as kind of becoming a real thing in 2022. I think what we're going to see, and the number one thing to watch for, is the adoption of completely different operating models that are based on many of the underpinnings of DAOs or decentralized autonomous organizations. If there was one topic that I think people in work tech and people in HR and people in executive management should really wrap their minds around in 2022, I really do believe it's the decentralized autonomous organization. Not because that's what we should all do. Point of fact, if you have a company and the company has a CEO and a board, and it by definition cannot be a DAO. Because governance in a DAO is, distributed, it's autonomous. I just had that. I just got off a podcast with Lori Rudiman, and we talked about this very issue. And she understands DAOs very well, and we had a lot of the, similar points of view of how people, don't really understand what a DAO is. But many of the things that, many of the concepts that are the underpinnings of DAOs, true DAOs that are being used in like blockchain and crypto development and stuff like that, are timeless concepts that address the zeitgeist that we're in right now. Mm-hmm. Where you and I were in a leadership team meeting yesterday, and I said, look, I don't know how anybody can manage a company without having more decentralization and more autonomy in their organization. Because you used to be able to, manage 15 or 20 people if you were in the office or, had, kind of asynchronous access to them or whatever. Because you just kind of do that, It's like many of the management philosophies over time, going back to the Industrial Revolution, are based on, like Gemba, it's like walk around, talk to people, go to the front lines, meet with your folks all the time, one-on-one conversations. Well, a lot of that shit you just can't do anymore. And I don't know about you, but I'm sure that our experience is similar to a lot of organizations. We're growing very quickly. And the scale of our organization is beyond some of the systems and processes that we had when we were much smaller. And I don't feel like I have the same capability to establish a traditional like team unit management and leadership experience the way that we could have in 2019 and stuff like that. Like I can't even wrap my mind around how I would coordinate with 15 people on an ongoing basis and all track very specific projects together and stuff like that. And I think that people who are trying to solve that problem are thinking about it the wrong way. Right. And it's really not a problem. It's an opportunity, which is just let the fuck go because people want to do the right thing. They pretty much know what to do. And if you have the right vision and everybody knows the vision that they're moving towards, then set them free. And they'll do it better than you ever could have planned for by telling people what to do. But I don't know what you're feeling about just the sense of your ability to impact teams through the same mechanisms that you could have in 2019.
Well, I mean, you just can't do it. But I mean, I think that this was an overdue development. I mean, like decades overdue. This is essentially sort of the last gasp of 19th century, Taylorism, that's sort of like that cult of management of, you can't trust people to do the right thing. They must be told what to do. Yeah. And, we finally kind of gotten to the point where you got to let go of that. And so I think that there are companies that are hoping against hope that things will get back to normal, to 2019 normal. And it's just like, that's just not going to happen. And I think the thing that you've zeroed in on is like you've got to embrace the moment and you've got to go forward rather than backwards. And so
you got to flow.
Right.
Got to be like Bruce Lee.
Exactly.
Like water in a teapot. Well, any New Year's resolutions?
New Year's resolutions. Nah, I don't really do New Year's resolutions. It's just like, it's, great. I'm going to do, I'm going to read a book every day for 360. No, it's just like why set a goal that I am destined to fail at?
Yeah, I feel like I need to make something up, just to tell people when they, ask. You know what? I did think of one other question. How many times this year, meaning last year, did you hear, a business owner say something to the effect of, well, business would be great if it wasn't for our terrible employees, or business would be great if it wasn't for our terrible customers? You know what I mean? Like
never.
You never heard that?
Never heard that.
I heard it at least 2 or 3 times where it's like, yeah, business would be great if my employees would come back to the office. You never heard anything like that?
No, never.
Business would be great if my terrified, customers wouldn't keep firing us because of the pandemic. I heard that several times in different variations. And, my response, not, I didn't say this out loud, but always like, it was always, are you sure that's the reason why things aren't going so great? Might be your attitude. Not sure.
Yeah.
Trying to force everybody. Anyway. So no New Year's resolutions. I did start baking.
Really?
And, apparently I'm really, really good at it.
What are you baking?
Cookies.
Cookies?
Mm-hmm.
Not bread?
Not yet. I've not graduated to bread. But Jennifer's mother, my mother-in-law, said to me no fewer than 15 or 20 times during the holidays, you could sell these. You could sell these. People pay money for these. You could sell them. I'm like, I'm not getting into the fucking cookie business.
No, you're not.
As wonderful as that sounds compared to some of the harder days in professional services, I am not going to have a midlife crisis and start baking cookies.
Although you could start a cookie bakery in the metaverse.
How do they get the cookie?
I don't know.
Yeah, all right. Well, it's good speaking with you, as always. I'm sure that we will be talking next week, and we will find out if it's true what you say, that the metaverse is going to completely take over the world in the next 6 months. I think that's what you said. And we'll check in on a couple of these other topics. And congratulations on the whole Zenefits thing. And, it's got to feel very validating for you.
I have no idea what you're talking about, Brett.
Yeah, well, I'm going to go dig it up, and I'm going to put it on LinkedIn. And I'm going to link back to the article that you wrote, and at least 3 of my favorite lines from, it wasn't an article, it was like a treatise. Do you say treatise or treatise? You personally?
I would say treatise.
Treatise. I love saying treatise, but people always say I'm saying it wrong.
Yeah, you are.
Anyway, I'm going to go back and find your treatise, and I'm going to highlight my favorite parts, and I'm going to put it on LinkedIn with this video. And all love for TriNet and Zenefits, but every now and then you got to give some credit where credit is due, because you were calling that as it was happening and before people knew that there was a significant problem. And I think that that's part of what a really good analyst does. And I think you nailed that one. So anyway.
Don't deserve the credit. Thank you for your kind words. Send me some cookies.
In the words of Bill Murray, you're awesome. Stripes. All right, bye.
Bye.